into a system. A system with numbers and papers.
And lines. And waiting. You work hard, get good grades, go to college.
I want to go to college. I got good grades.
I overachieved.
That's right, you did.
Debt is good?
Debt is so good.
So much debt. I can totally save up and buy a house and start a family.
I want a family.
Oh.
Starting a family means you need 2 or 3 jobs.
You can't afford to buy.
Oh. You can't afford to rent.
Used cars cost as much as the new ones.
Oh.
Good debt is
I was
good.
ahead of my class.
Houses are too expensive.
Get good grades, go
The
to
system, the
Rent
numbers.
is freaking insane.
Breaking news. Everything is terrible.
Does it have to be this way?
What if it was different?
It's always been that way.
We've got to build our way out of it. Yeah.
Put control back to the hands of the people.
A system with less paperwork.
No waiting.
Permissionless.
Just because you're born into a system?
Doesn't mean you have to live with it.
Good evening, everybody! Woo! My name is Kartik, one of the co-founders of ETHGlobal, and I'm super excited to welcome all of you to ETHIndia. Come on! There we go! This is not a conference. We are at a hackathon. If you've been to an ETHGlobal event before, you know how we're different. ETHIndia has been an amazing series of events for us. We started in 2018. We ran it again in 2019. We took a little bit of pause and came back last year. And we're finally excited to be back here for the 4th time in partnership with Devfolio to 2023. Are you all excited? There we go. Our goal here is to onboard developers into this ecosystem. And where else could we go to find the most talented people in the world? It's right here in India. Now, what makes these events different is that our focus here is on builders, which is why these events are the opportunities for you to learn, get help, and upskill yourselves and learn about what's actually happening at the edge. And most importantly, we believe showing is way more important than telling. So we don't want to see and hear about what you're thinking and what you want to build. We want to see actually you build it and demo it to us, because building is what's more important. Now, ETHIndia 2023 is special because we want to have a reignited focus on changing the status quo. And who better to bring that up and tell you more about than our very own Denver from Devfolio. So please join me in welcoming Denver on stage.
Right. All right. So I'm just going to take a pause for a minute for everybody to really think what we are here to do this weekend, right? And if you think about it, I mean, sure, there are going to be 2,000 people in the building. There's going to be 250K up in prizes. But what beyond that, right? And for that, I would like to take you to a quick story, right? And for that, we must travel to yeah. Okay. Okay. The town of Gaya in Bihar, where we have an example of this guy Dashrath, right? And now Dashrath is a happy-go-lucky man by nature, right? And all his life he sees an imposing mountain in front of him that separates his village from the rest of civilization by 55 kilometers, which is a lot in any terms, even beyond I mean, it's impossible in Bangalore traffic, but then even for Gaya, it's a lot. But the thing to think about here is that this really cut his access off of anything that he could use to improve his life. But he still didn't think much about it until it hit home close one day. One day, Dashrath's wife was walking through the mountain to fetch some water from the neighboring village. And as she did that, she sadly slipped, fell on the rocks, and lost her life. And this is what hit really close to home for Dashrath. And he decided to do something about it. But sadly, change does not come easy. So he just decided to take it upon himself and picked up a chisel and a hammer and was at it. Was at it not for 1 day, 2 days, or a week. He was at it for 22 years. Now it kind of seems unbelievable if this is even a true story, but trust me, it is. And like this is based on the real life of Dashrath Manji, who's even like awarded by the president for his efforts. What happened initially was that people thought he was like, first they ignored him, then they laughed at him, then everybody then finally realized what he was up to. And 22 years later, he managed to cut the time from the distance from 55 kilometers to just 15 kilometers, bringing a whole new wave of prosperity to his village and changing the lives of thousands of his people in his village, right? Now, why did we just talk about Dashrath and his story, right? I think this is a sort of an analogy in my head, in our head at least, as we were thinking about what we hope to accomplish with this edition of ETHIndia. And as we think, like, I mean, sure, like, you can build all the cool apps on ZK, FHE, and all the stuff that's going around these days. But what are we trying to build out here, right? Think about that for a minute. Think about what we saw earlier with the Coinbase feature ad. And also think about, also think about the fable of the dragon tyrant. For those of you who don't know about the short story by Nick Bostrom, you should probably check it out. We have a feature on it outside in the hall, and we have done a bit on it. And it's something that's deeply entrenched into the Ethereum ecosystem, and we thought it's like important, right, to share the message. But as you go through this, the common theme here is what we are really trying to do is something different, is to challenge the status quo. And in our process, as we build along, learn, grow, and build over this weekend, just think about what we are here to do, right? We are here to build the impossible, right? And yeah, I would just like to leave you with this thought. And this is what we hope to achieve with ETHIndia. This is what Devfolio and ETHGlobal had thought would be cool to help see through this year. And that's why we brought together ETHIndia for you, right? And to discuss more about ETHIndia, I'm over to Kartik, right?
Thank you. Well, the goal here for us is to have you think about how do you actually move mountains. And this brings me to this final event of the year by us. I am super excited to announce that this is the world's biggest Ethereum hackathon at this moment. That's incredible. We have over 2,000 attendees from all across the world. 15 of them are hackers from 217 different cities and 35 different countries. We try to see where everybody was coming from, and the best part about all this thing is that the goal becomes for us to get new engineers into this, to look into and see what's exciting about Web3, and 30% of these 2,000 people are existing Web2 developers coming into Web3. That's awesome. Not only that, 35 countries represented here, and you can definitely see that massive, massive, massive set of cloud dots. That's, of course, India. I'm super excited to have all of you here, and thank you so much for coming from all different cities and states across the country. Give yourself a massive round of applause. We also have 230 ecosystem mentors here and 12 technical mentors who are going to be here 24/7 to help answer all of your questions. And because this is not a conference, there are exactly 0 talks this weekend. What we do have instead, and what we already did finish, is 22 workshops on how to use every single protocol you can think of, and use that to learn and get ahead and even save yourself some time trying to understand how to build the things that you're excited about. And to top it all off, $250,000 is being given away in prizes. So to thank all of our amazing partners who are making this possible, let's start clapping for all of them and thanking all of our 28 incredible partners. So please thank OneEdge, Polygon, Filecoin, Arbitrum, Scroll, Airstack, Alliance, Base, Celos, Chainlink, Ethereum Foundation, Mantle, Powerloom, Push, Safe, The Graph, Waku XDC, CoinDCX, Huddle, Lighthouse, MetaMask, Monat, OKS, XMTP, Zeta Chain, Creso, and Fidelity. All of these companies and protocols are here this entire weekend, making sure that you are not stuck doing something from scratch, and you get to learn about a lot of these protocols and see what they're up to by talking to them at their booths. So now let's talk about this weekend. I'm going to keep this very quick. I want all of you to know what the next important things are for you to keep in mind, especially for your project submission. So we're going to cover a few things. The first one is just an agenda. We're going to talk about the venue, if you are still not familiar with it, how you can get all the help you need for this weekend. Of course, all the prizes. We already kind of covered a lot of the workshops. We'll tell you about how you can actually keep up with that. If you're still looking for a team, we're going to do a session here to help you find more team members. And the most important part is how judging works. Before all of that, let's talk about the internet. Do not use Wi-Fi hotspots. We know that this happens every time, and if you are stuck with not having great Wi-Fi, it's because there's a hotspot next to you interfering with those wavelengths and making that hard for you. So to make that less of a problem this time, we're introducing a new system. You can go to wifi.ethglobal.com, and you now have to put in an access code that lets you credit your account with one Wi-Fi access code and one LAN code. Every table there in the back has an Ethernet connection. You get to plug that directly in. Once you plug that in, 30 seconds later, a pop-up will open up and it'll ask you for your code. You get your code by heading over to wifi.ethglobal.com, and then your device is good to go. Then you can plug it in anywhere, but you get to keep it to one device on Wi-Fi and one on LAN. This will help make sure that we get to actually offer guaranteed service for the minimum speed requirements, and it'll also prevent all the cluttering that happens, especially on Sunday when 2,000 of you are going to be in this building demoing all of your projects. If you run into any issues, you can message anybody on the ETHGlobal team or the Devfolio team on Discord, anywhere else. Find me, we'll debug it. But so far, you can just easily use this thing by putting in your email. Now let's talk about security. All of you should have a wristband and a badge. This event is open 24/7, which means anybody can come in and out of this building the entire time from today until the end of Sunday. So please make sure you have your wristband on you. And if you lose it, we are not going to be giving you a new one. So do not cut it off. If you cut it off, we need to see the cut off one back. Things happen, we understand, but we are not going to let you in if you lose this band today or anytime this weekend. Also, very simple rule. The gates are going to be closed at the front. If you don't have a wristband, doesn't matter what time it is, doesn't matter what you forgot in the building, you cannot come in. We're going to be very tight on security, so please make sure you have your wristband and your badge and your photo ID on you at all times if we need to verify something additionally. On top of all of that, do not leave your stuff unattended. Again, this is open 24/7. There's a lot of stuff here. We want to make sure that you are mindful of your own belongings and you keep that with you at all times. We won't be responsible for any lost items. There is a lost and found box we have. If you see something or somebody reports it, we'll keep it and notify people, but please be responsible for your own belongings. Lastly, don't make a mess. Yes, we're going to keep everything clean and do rounds, but try to not leave stuff around, whether it's food, empty cups, bottles, whatever it is. Don't make it messy for everybody else. Try to take care of it. There's a trash can at the end of every row. Just keep things tidy. We want to leave this the same way we found it. Now let's get to the venue and activities. There's two halls here, as you may have figured. The main one that you came in is the old hall. That's where registration was. That's where food and beverage is. That's where a few additional hacking stations are. And we also have a play area and a lounge area with some games. You can see all of that on that side. Where we are now is the new hall. That's where the majority of the hacking is. That's where the main stage is, where I am on. All of our partner booths are here. All the workshops related things are here. And on Sunday, this is where all the demos are going to happen from the partner side. So you get to see all of that also on the website. But I just wanted to summarize this for you all together. Next up, late night snacks. There is more than dinner, and we'll be serving late night snacks at late night from midnight to 1:30 a.m. in the old hall. So if you're still up and working on any of your projects, you get to still enjoy some treats. Now let's talk about communication. Everything that we're going to be doing officially will be communicated on Discord. On your Devfolio dashboard. You get to see and connect Discord. That means you will be authorized to access the ETHGlobal Discord. You can also get there quickly by going to ethglobal.com/discord and see all the channels where you can get help. You can talk to any of our partners, meet other hackers, and anything else that you want to ask us for support or we want to communicate to you will be there primarily. That's where we'll be talking about all the announcements, anything around any delays, anything around some changes, anything that happens, that's where we communicate to you first. And there's a dedicated channel for all of our partners and mentors, so if you're stuck with some bug at 4 a.m., you can just message that Discord with your question. And you can also find those mentors here in person at their table, but we'll be able to monitor that and answer any of those questions for you. And everything is officially going to be maintained on the website, which means if something changes, you can just go on the website, ETHIndia.co, and see if that's still true. If something changes on our end, we'll update the website first, and then we'll tell it to you on Discord. ETHIndia.co. Lastly, you're in person. Talk to each other. There's 2,000 of you. A lot of you know about so many interesting things, whether it's front-end, back-end, smart contract security, anything you want to think about. There's probably somebody in this room who has done it or knows something about it or probably invented it. And you get to just shout out, hey, who needs help with this, or how can I debug this thing? And chances are somebody will respond. So please take advantage of meeting people in person. This is why we do these events in person, because you get to see all the incredible people live. Now, how does the hackathon work? Officially, hacking begins at 9 p.m., which is 10 minutes from now, and you can officially start working on your code, and that gives you 36 hours to hack. You can work on your projects with up to 5 members if you have a team. You don't need to necessarily have a team. You are more than welcome to build your project on your own. It's just a lot easier if there's multiple people doing things and making it nice and easy for you to do all of that in a short amount of time. You have 36 hours now, and submissions are due at 9 a.m. So 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. is the window. The rules are very simple. Everything that you do as part of the submission must be done from scratch. You cannot build on a pre-existing project of your own. You cannot convert something you did before to this new thing. You cannot add a feature to your side project. That is not allowed. It must be done from scratch. A really important one, which we're going to start disqualifying teams for, if you see 2 large commits for your entire weekend with 100,000 lines, which happens a lot, instant disqualification, you will not win a prize. I am very serious about this thing. You need to follow the Git commits and incrementally publish code. Any large commits get instantly disqualified, and this is going to be automated. It's a simple API request from us. We get to see how many commits there are and how many lines each commit has from the GitHub API. We will start flagging them immediately. So follow GitHub and Git guidelines properly. Do not do large commits. And if your team members are not listed on the dashboard, you will not win that prize. So make sure all of your team members are actually listed as team members so that each of them are qualifying for those prizes. If you see a member who committed to the GitHub and they're not listed on the team, you also get disqualified. So please do not try to go around breaking those rules. And just to clarify, the most common question we get, you are more than welcome to fork off an existing open source project. You don't have to code everything from scratch. You want to pick some DeFi protocol from their GitHub repo, which is open source, fork that, add new features, all that is allowed. But you cannot build on your own personal projects, which are not properly licensed or well done open source projects from the community. And to summarize all the stuff around workshops, 22 workshops happened today. All of them were recorded. All of them were live streamed. You can just head over now to ethglobal.tv and watch all of them on demand. So if you missed a workshop or you wanted to remember what somebody said or what command they typed, you can just go to ethglobal.tv, go to that video, press pause, zoom in, and watch it at your own pace. Or just go find that speaker who is also in the building right now, and we'll be there for the whole weekend, and ask them any questions. So all that is there for you on demand. Do take advantage of all of it. And again, if there's anything else that I miss, you get to ask Devfolio and the ETHGlobal team for any of those clarifications. We're here 24/7. We're going to be there to make sure that we don't run into any problems. Let's talk about mentorship. If you need help live for any of the things around this hackathon, you get to find all of our amazing mentors. You can find them by looking for people in these orange jackets. They're going to be wearing this thing the entire time, so if you need help, chances are this person is not a construction worker. They're here to help you with your code. So do take advantage of all of our amazing mentors, and you can also see them on your dashboards with a list of who the mentors are. Now the most important part, judging. Judging is going to begin on Sunday when the submissions are due at 9 a.m., December 10th. That is 36 hours and 8 minutes from now. This is what judging will look like. When you submit your project, you will be given a choice. You can go to the main judging or partner-only judging. Both of these things happen at the same time, from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Here's how these two are different. If you want to be part of the main judging, you get to be eligible for being the top 10 projects from this hackathon. But you also get to be qualified for all of our partner prizes. If you want to just do partner judging, you don't get to be part of the top 10 projects, but you are equally part of the partner judging. The thing you have to keep in mind is that all these things are happening at the same time, and you have to go demo to the main judges and the partners for your projects, which means you have now a couple choices to make. The one that is probably more important is don't try to select and try to win 10 prizes by doing 10 things and fitting them into a single project where it may not make sense, because then you have to go present to 10 teams from our partners in that same window, and if you click the main judging, you have to do 11 times, and you are not going to make that work. So don't be greedy. Pick a couple of partner prizes that you think actually help you solve a problem that you're excited about, and make it easy for yourself and also for your chances of making something really good. Of course, this keeps in mind that you have to be responsible for telling us that you wanted to win some prize. So if you don't select the prize, there's no way that any of us would know that you wanted to win that prize. So if you missed that, specifying this thing, and you can't go to the table, or the table's full, or you didn't get a chance to demo it, or you're like, oh, why did I not get this prize? It's because neither we or the partners knew that they were supposed to judge you. So don't forget to do that. All that is happening on your dashboard and in parallel. And the key thing here is all of this happens first come, first serve, which means you don't have to assign for a slot. If you realize that this other table is less full than the other one, you can go to the other partner first. If you realize that you want to do 2 demos of the partner first and then go to the main judging, you can do that. You can just say, I'm going to go join the main judging line, then come back to partners. All that is allowed. We want to make sure it's as fluid as possible. So the second you get to the front of the line, you are up. So be ready to demo as soon as you're there. Now, quick questions or comments on how the judging works. You will have 7 minutes each, 4 minutes for a video and 3 minutes for Q&A. We recommend that you also record a quick video of your submission so that if something goes wrong, if localhost fails, if the gas transaction cost goes up and it's going to take 2 minutes now to finish the transaction, you don't run into those things live. You can always fall back to a video. We do want you to do live demo so we can make sure that you actually did code it and it's not fake, but you get to record a backup. So we recommend that, but also it's going to take you at least 30 minutes to fill out the form. So don't try to do this thing 5 minutes before 9 a.m. It's not going to work out in your favor. Start looking at the questions that you have to answer for the judging form. Start looking at how you want to classify and clarify all these things. Just look at the form before Sunday so you know what the answers are, and then you can put all that in. But make sure you put all those details. And to summarize all of this, make the submission good. If we want to know what's going on, we want to be able to just see that from your project page. We can see what your code does. We can understand why you built it. We have good descriptions. We can see how you use a different protocol. Make it easier for us to understand. Otherwise, we can only look at and judge what we see. And if you don't see a lot, if you see just broken screenshots, it only hurts you. We don't want that. So make it easy for us to help you win some amazing prizes. And just even highlight really amazing projects. It's not just about prizes. That's it on the logistics. Let's also remind all of you that this is an in-person event. We have a code of conduct and some rules, which means anything I talked about disqualification or how to behave here or anywhere else, all that is on ethglobal.com/rules. I'll summarize it for you. Please be respectful for everybody here. Any sort of harassment in any form will not be tolerated. You can report this to any one of us and we'll take immediate action. And the most important part here is anything that you build is owned by you. No partner, neither ETHGlobal nor Devfolio has any rights to your work. So if you build something with your team, all team members equally have full intellectual property rights to your projects. So you get to do whatever you want with this project after Sunday. Anything else I miss? Just come find me. I've been talking a lot. I'm sure you're tired of it. So I'm going to stop talking, and this is the time where I'm going to have someone else come in and talk. So please join me in welcoming James and Juan from Protocol Labs and Filecoin to tell you more about who they are, why they're excited to be in this space, and what you can learn about both of their protocols. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello, Bangalore. Great to see so many of you here for ETHIndia. My name is James. I work on Builders Funnel Programming at Protocol Labs, and I'm here with someone that many of you will know, Juan Bennett, who is the founder of Protocol Labs and the creator of IPS, Filecoin, libp2p, and many more technologies, and that's my moment just to embarrass him so everyone is now suitably comfortable. So why are we here? Well, Protocol Labs is an innovation network that accelerates research and development. We predominantly do this through driving breakthroughs in computing. Over the past 10 years, we have built a number of category-leading ecosystem and protocols, including IPFS, and this is a super exciting week because it was 10 years ago since Juan made the first ever IPFS commit, which is a super exciting moment. That deserves a round of applause, everyone. That's amazing persistence over such a long time, so thank you. We also built Filecoin, that many of you will know as the world's largest decentralized storage network, libp2p, which is a networking layer on top of which Ethereum 2.0 and other networks are built. And so why are we here? Well, we want you to be really creative and use a number of new technologies that we have at Protocol Lab, as well as many of our existing protocols, to build unique projects over the next 36 hours. You can use Filecoin, you can use the Filecoin virtual machine, which brings smart contract programmability to Filecoin and unlocks super new and exciting use cases like programmable storage, decentralized compute, and data DAOs. You can use IPC, and that is exactly why Juan is here today. He's going to tell you about why the interplanetary consensus is an exciting new technology that unlocks a whole new paradigm of projects. We have NFT.storage, which is a one-click solution to IPFS and Filecoin. We have Lighthouse, we have Saturn as a decentralized CDN, and so much more. So we have $20,000 bounty up for everybody here to win from the hackathon. And if you're like me in the morning, I wake up and I think, what would King Khan do? Well, he would absolutely apply for one of our grand prizes. We have 3 of them. They're $3,000 each. And they also come with bespoke office hours with Juan and many of the PL leadership team to support you on your journey. We also have a pool prize of $11,000, which will grant to up to 15 teams. You can look at this in slower time if you scan the QR code on the right-hand side of the screen. We want you to build innovative apps and technologies. You can use one or many of the technologies I've spoken about today. There's really exciting new challenge statements, things we're excited about across programmatic storage, data DAOs, state storage integration, DeFi, and one quick note on DeFi. Filecoin was outside of, I think, the top 100 layer ones by TVL just a few months ago, and now we're one of the top 25 layer ones across all of crypto, which is super exciting. So what is the next paradigm of protocols that you can build to unlock that? And Juan is now going to tell you about a super exciting new piece of technology that we have here today to all of you to try. Juan.
So one of the things that we're excited about is to enable the hackers here to try their hands with some new tech breakthroughs. These are not for the faint of heart. These will require a lot of experimentation. There will be dragons. And you can look at 2 sides. One is you can take the FVM and add new runtimes. So think of other VMs that you could plug into the FVM to then run something interesting. Or you can build some very large-scale applications with IPC. The new runtimes side of FVM comes in because FVM is this hypervisor VM that enables you to plug in these other systems. And then you can use IPC to run those things. Note here that the VMs are not just blockchain VMs. You could do things with Docker or Cloudflare Workers or Firecracker. It would be amazing to see Linux booting up in a blockchain. Like, wouldn't that be sweet? And so yeah, excited to see what people will build. It would be really cool to see games, for example, entire like turn-based games running in subnets. So yeah, back to you.
Fantastic, thank you very much. 20 seconds just to say, we have built out a set of structures at Protocol Lab called the Builders Funnel, which support you at every single step of your entrepreneurial journey. So while you might be here experimenting with hackathons, we have grants, accelerators, investment, and then a whole network that supports you on that journey. And we have one very quick, exciting announcement that Juan is going to tell you about as well.
So I know that a lot of people here contribute to open source. When I was here last year, many people came up to me asking about how they could get started with libp2p or contributing to IPFS or Filecoin. And one of the super exciting things that we're shipping this year is the PL Dev Guild, which will be a support program with mentorship, office hours, and funding for people wanting to develop open source. So if you're interested in that, scan. We'll talk more about it later in the hackathon.
Yep, and it's launching in India first, so India devs only. So come and vibe with us at the booth. We'll be spinning the decks, spinning up IPC subnets, and so much more. Thank you, everybody. Super excited to see you, and good luck, hackers. Thank you.
Sorry about that. It took way longer. Sorry.
Amazing. All right, well, next up, I want to bring on Blake and Sandeep from Polygon. Please give them a big round of applause.
Hello, hello. I have a special guest that I brought with me. Goes by Sandeep. Do we have another microphone? Thank you. Great. Well, let's get into it. Okay, so just wanted to go into this really quickly. This QR code is for the Polygon partner channel in the Discord. So if you have any questions answered at any time, feel free to scan this QR code, chat with us. We have a bunch of people here on site, and it's the best way to get your questions answered. We're really excited to be here. We have $20,000 up for grabs. We have 5 different bounties, so I'm going to go ahead and get into them right away. So the first one, best use of ZK EVM. This is more of a general, for that 30% of people who are new to this space from Web 2 or whatever, this is a really good bounty to get at. We've got enough for 4 different teams, so we're going to split up the $5,000 that way. Again, this is going to be a really general one. We want to see you guys get creative. We want to see some different applications that are on the ZK EVM testnet. Next, DeFi challenge. So this is just deploy a DeFi application on the ZK EVM testnet. After that, use a Polygon tool. This is a pretty straightforward one. What was I going to say? Sorry. I had some notes here that I wanted to. So we know that it can be difficult to sort of get queries from the blockchain data. So the chain indexer is going to be the best way to do this. If you have any more questions, I'm going to continue to move through this one. dApp Launchpad. This is a new one. I need to read this one. dApp Launchpad is a CLI tool to build a dApp on the Polygon and ZK EVM compatible chains, including both front-end smart contract functionalities. We have 2 different teams that could win up to $500, and we're excited to see you guys get into this one. Next, the best use of Polygon ID. If you haven't seen this video of Hudson, it's amazing. But this one is going to be use Polygon ID to represent identity-based information as verifiable credentials in your dApps so that users can prove access rights to dApp features without giving up their private data. And next, I'll hand it off to Sandeep.
Yeah, hello everyone. These are some really cool bounties. But many of you guys might have heard me saying that, you know, from this year onwards, we have started like a more concerted efforts in terms of getting more protocol builders from India, protocol and middleware builders from India. So a lot of bounties are here for people who are attending their first hackathon or are just getting started in Web3. So you have some standard app level bounties to discuss here. But then you also have use a Polygon tool, and in that system or in that bounty, I want you guys to think really creative and go into, let's say, the ZK tools that Polygon has built, especially Plonky 2, which is like the fastest library in the whole industry for the proof aggregation. So come up with some really cool ideas around the proof aggregation and how you can enable, let's say, privacy-based DeFi or privacy-based NFTs and so many other things like that you can do. So in the tool, like this is especially like use a Polygon tool thing. And I also want people to look into PIL. PIL is a our Polygon polynomial implementation language where you can write constraints for ZK-based systems. So if any one of you wants to dabble into the ZK-based constraints and come up with really cool things, do that also. And especially this dApp Launchpad also. Think that how you can do or how you can use ZK to have like really creative things. Like let's say, can you, if a dApp is launching, can you have a private Dutch auction for them? Or can you have, can you create a system, wherein maybe like even like a simple exchange or a DEX where the trades are hidden, so there is some privacy use cases over there, and then using these tools, you can also like for example, Pill, somebody can actually write a simple hello world program, and using Pill, you can create a ZK prover for that hello world program, right? Which is a very small VM. Like this hello world program will become like a very small code that you are building the proof for, and because the time is very low, but then you can extend that later on. Some of you can actually build an order book exchange, order book DEX, which is fully on-chain and is being proven back to Ethereum. So those kind of hardcore ZK and protocol level stuff, especially with Polygon CDK, you're going to have next year. We'll have like probably 50 or 100 Polygon chains. So how can you have like atomic transactions across chains using the power of ZK and things like that? So explore more on that. We would be more and more interested in seeing Indian developers looking into those hardcore, zero knowledge based and other middleware and infrastructure tooling. Thanks everyone.
Awesome. It's like a bring your founder to work day. All right, next up, I want to bring on Sasha from OneInch. Please give her a massive round of applause.
Hello, hello, Namo Bengaluru, right? GM Hackers, I'm glad to be here. And first touch, raise your hands, those 30% who are at the Web3 Hackathon for the first time. I want to see you guys. Hello, 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 thank you. And GM Hackers OGs, I'm glad to see you again and again. And for our very, very new hackers, I want to share the story of OneInch. OneInch has been built in 2019 in the hackathon in New York. And it wasn't actually the first hackathon for our founders. They have been here like in 2018, and they tried and tried and tried. And I want to actually show you where is our unicorn now. Now we are covering 70% of the aggregation market share. We're having almost $400 billion in total volume. But my favorite part is we have more than 150 contributors around the globe, and our team is also here. We are in the booth. If you have any questions, come join us. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and I want to invite you to start building on OneInch bounties. And what is OneInch bounties? So first bounty is a Fusion API. We released our very new MEV protected, gasless swap API, which is also covering the liquidity, not only DEXs, but SEXs. And please be very creative and try to implement or even show us your case on implementation. Second bounty is a token plugin. So we released token plugins in ETHCC in Paris. And we want to actually invite you to maybe be, again, creative and find your ways on token plugins implementation. Third one, so our DevRel tenor called this dev portal is a web bridge between Web2 developers and Web3 developers. So if you are a Web2 developer, go to oneinch.dev, check our docs, and try to build something with our 11 different APIs. 2 seconds to scan the code and check the documentation. And let's build to change and innovate. Looking forward. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. All right, next up is Daniel from Scroll. Please give Daniel a big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I am Daniel. I lead the DevRel team at Scroll. If you are unfamiliar with Scroll, we are a layer 2 network for scaling Ethereum using zero-knowledge proofs. There's a lot of jargon here. If you're part of the 30% that are new to Web3, welcome. We're making something that looks and feels just like Ethereum, but it's faster, cheaper, and maintains the security of Ethereum. All right, so I'm going to keep this real brief. We want you to focus on building, so we don't have a lot of hoops to jump through to get the Scroll bounties. We want to make it easy. You can copy, paste, deploy your code. And anything you can do on Ethereum, you can do on Scroll, but again, faster, cheaper, and with higher throughput. To get our prize, you're going to need to acquire some Scroll Sepolia ETH, change your RPC URL and deploy, and then verify your contracts. That's all it takes. And that's a fun piece of news. but we have some prizes that you can win if you do those steps, right? If you do that, if you deploy on Scroll, you'll be part of the $7,000 pool prize, which you'll share amongst every other project that deploys. You 30% that are new to Web3 get this prize. We also have 10 winners of $1,000 for our Best on Scroll prize. Build something fun, creative, weird, technically deep, something that matters to you. We want to see what you're building, see what you're passionate about, and come show it to us on Sunday. Win one of these prizes. I'm going to leave this hacker Telegram group QR code up here for as long as possible. We also have it available at our booth. If you go here, there is a faucet bot. You can get some Scroll Sepolia ETH, and you can get started and get deployed super fast on the Scroll Sepolia testnet. We also have links to our hackathon cheat sheet, so you can see all the other projects that are already deployed on Scroll Sepolia, including partner projects that also have prize money up for grabs. So come show us what you're building. Thanks so much, and good hacking.
Thank you. And next up, and our last partner note for today is Patrick from Arbitrum Foundation. Please give Patrick a big round of applause.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Also, I just want to do one more round of applause to everyone in this room. Thanks so much for coming to this hackathon. Woo! You know, it's like a huge effort to make it here. So, maybe one last question. Who's used Arbitrum before? Raise your hand if you're an Arbinaut. That's awesome. So if you haven't used it, please play with the technology this weekend. It's a roll-up layer 2 scalability solution. And on that, the goal for our bounties are sort of in the spirit of this hackathon. We want everyone here to build something interesting to them. Your project doesn't have to be the next big startup. Your project just has to be something that you find interesting, and then you come to the booth and you convince us why it's interesting. So, you know, build the most original project, use the best technology, build a cool library, or hopefully use Stylus. You know, if you're a Rust developer, come check out Stylus. You might find that really awesome and cool. But finally, when I thought about this announcement, you know, sort of this one opportunity to send a message to everyone here, I really want to highlight, why should we care about crypto, smart contracts, blockchains, or even roll-ups? Like, why do we care about this technology or this entire field? And in my mind, it's because the whole point of crypto is to build a better tech stack. A tech stack that protects the user from the system operator. It can protect your funds and protect your interactions with others. And if you can build a system that ultimately protects the user and empowers the user, as we just saw with that Coinbase advert before, it can empower the individual. So now raise your hand if you want to work or you do work at a Web3 company today. Like, who works in Web3 and crypto? And who wants to work in Web3 and crypto? Hopefully everyone in the room. Hopefully, if we get this technology right, it will empower everyone in this room to join the global community, contribute your talents, and earn a living for doing so. You can offer me a service. I can pay you for the service. I don't have to trust you, and you don't have to trust me. As long as we can trust the service itself, or sorry, we can trust the system, then we can transact and interact. So you can truly join the global community. And that's why this hackathon, these projects, just Web3, for me, it's not a Pepsi or a Coke. There's not one project that's better than the other project. Our goal is to work as a collective, to build a tech stack that helps everyone in this room. So we empower everyone towards the betterment of everyone at this hackathon. So with that in mind, build something cool this weekend and try to convince us why it's cool. I'm very excited to meet everyone at this hackathon. GG, guys. GG. Cool.
Thank you. Those were our 5 amazing partners. And next up, I want to bring on 2 another incredible founders to have a conversation around some things that I feel like are worth talking about. We're not going to cover any of the stuff around the companies necessarily or what their protocols are doing. We're going to go a lot more back in time and talk about how they got here. So please join me in welcoming Juan Bonet and Sandeep Naiwal from Protocol Labs and Polygon. Juan Sandeep. We've already seen you on stage, so welcome back. As we were kind of thinking about what to cover today, I think one thing that sort of resonated for me particularly was, let's kind of talk more about who you are as individuals instead of just what you do. So my kind of first question is to you, Juan. Tell us about how you got into computer science and what kind of got you excited about being in tech.
Yeah. So I grew up in Mexico. I was born there, and when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of games. A lot of different console games, PC games, and so on. And I started playing online games, like Warcraft 2 and StarCraft and so on. And I started getting into guilds. And then guilds needed a website, so then I started to figure out like, how hard could this be? I'll just figure out how to make things. And that for me was a big rabbit hole that led me to want to figure out how to program computers and whatnot. So I got into computers pretty early, but it wasn't until college when I really dove really deep into computer science and gone into distributed systems, networking, AI, and a bunch of other things. But kind of all along the way, I've been extremely curious, and so I've always wanted to learn an enormous amount. So though I've focused on computer science throughout that entire period, I learned a lot about many other fields that ended up being really useful in lots of the things that I build today.
How did that turn into you wanting to be a founder?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or maybe walk us back through, Protocol Labs is not your first startup.
Yeah.
What happened before this?
Yeah, so I kind of going through college, there was always this inbuilt, so I went to college at Stanford, and there's a very strong culture of, it's the heart of Silicon Valley, and so there's a strong culture of building new technology companies and using new technology companies to change the world. I'd grown up in a lot of stories from like Steve Jobs and others who had a bunch of ideas and were able to turn those into products and then deploy them into the world, and through that dramatically change how the world worked. And I always aspired to that. Like that was extremely inspirational and exciting as a great way to make a big impact in the world. And so I think between college and PL, I first started a video game company. So this was actually out of a hackathon. So I did a week-long hackathon and came up with some friends and I came up with a monster catcher game, a location-oriented mobile phone. This was way before Pokemon Go. So we decided to then turn that into a company. And so we built it, we shipped it to the world. We eventually scaled it to, I think, 100,000 users in the high points. And then from there, I went to a second company where we wanted to map all of human knowledge and try to make it easy for you to learn. So think of like a package manager for your mind, saying, hey, I want to learn machine learning. How do I trace all of the concepts that I need to learn and kind of feed them to me? That was way harder and way riskier as a startup. We ended up not being able to raise money. We super failed in terms of ended up like spending all our money and ended up super broke before PL. And kind of after that startup, I started contributing to open source in a bunch of projects, exploring a bunch of ideas, into what eventually led to IPFS. And from there, got to Filecoin, and after that coupled together into something that was actually worthy of a startup, and that's when I started Protocol Labs. I went into an YC, and kind of that was the beginning.
I definitely want to cover a bunch of stuff around YC, but maybe it's the same question to you, Sandeep. What were you doing before Matic?
Before Matic, I had a startup. Just before that, I had a blockchain startup only, and I was just getting into it, so I wanted to learn more by doing hands-on projects. So it kind of became a small services project for services startup for 6-8 months before I could have gone and started something on my own. And before that, I had a B2B e-commerce startup, which was more for these white collar, not like gray collar, services, but white collar, services, which a marketplace for those services is kind of like the thought process was to build a Alibaba for India, but for services. Alibaba is for manufacturing. Can we build a Alibaba for India, because India is services hub? So that kind of thing was there. You know, before that also I had done like multiple startups, you know, from tech to completely non-tech. Like, you know, even I, you know, played a founding role in a honeybee, like very long back, like a honeybee extraction or like honey business. Even, you know, one time during my second year of college, I even did like a gym related startup, like, you know, gym and fitness related startup where you can, you know, can we open like all of these colleges in India, can they have their own, like they all have small gyms but nobody operates them, so those kind of things. So I did multiple like part-time startups before, you know, doing my full-time startup only in 2016, 17.
Oh, that's amazing. I feel like I learned all these things live just now. Well, you two have similar stories in the sense that you kind of started these companies in a time where not only people were not willing to fund things, but also they didn't know what it was. And that's a strange kind of echo of like a sort of like a valley of uncertainty that both of you had to go through. I want to kind of start this off by asking you one, when did you apply to Y Combinator? What was it like? What made you apply to it? And especially being a solo founder, kind of how did that journey look like about a decade ago now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'd always been very interested in extremely deep tech companies, so trying to build startups that really built some intense technology that was truly making the world better, and then kind of deploy that into the world. And at the time, you know, before that, YC was kind of primarily known for a lot of SaaS companies. And there were a number of them that were very good, like, you know, things like Stripe and so on. But a lot, kind of like the average YC company at the time was not super exciting in that sense. But right around that time, Sam Altman had just started as the president of YC and was now leading the program. And he put out a request for startups that was very inspiring. So this had, you know, energy and transportation and a whole bunch of like really serious hard problems. And that's the RFS that I responded to and made me really want to go to YC. And so I decided to apply, got in, and was part of like a pretty amazing cohort. If I remember correctly, this also had, I think, Boom Supersonic, which is a aerosonic, supersonic planes, Rigetti, which was quantum computers, and Helion, which is doing like fusion. So I think there were a bunch of like extremely compelling technology companies that were all part of the same YC batch, and that's kind of why I ended up applying and going through it.
How was fundraising as an Indian founder 6 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just listening to, you know, Yuan, the kind of you know, deep tech things he was doing very early on. You know, I would say, and a lot of people will resonate with me that, you know, doing these things from India is like actually a little bit hard, because, you know, you need, you can do some things in some of the universities, like only in some IITs maybe, you know, build a racing car or whatever, like those kind of startups. But generally doing deep tech like requires some level of investment, which in India that risk capital is not available in that much plenty. And especially that risk capital when it's many times non-profit. Like people don't realize that how much, you know, public good happens, or these new technologies and breakthroughs happen in US due to these public goods funding. So for me, obviously, you know, all of the Indian and many Indian founders will also relate to me. For us, it's basically trying to get something which can build a survivable business so that your family is not constantly sitting on your head that why don't you have a job, and, you know, when will you make money, and you know, all those things. So you need to have the survival thing first. And obviously, like when we started at that point in time and we were doing Polygon, it was like, you know, many investors in crypto space, big ones, like, you know, point blank told me that, you know, like even like somebody asked that which are the bigger kind of these protocol or deep tech companies that have come out of India. And actually you can only name one or two, like, you know, tech companies, tech brands, which are actually on a global scale, like Freshdesk is one, Zoho,
yeah.
and maybe like one is this Postman. I think like 3-4 companies are there, but then no consumer companies there. None of these companies are into deep tech. Like Zoho and all that are also not deep tech. These are like email. Freshdesk is like, you know, your services, customer service desk and things like that. So it was definitely extremely hard to convince like tier 1 VCs that such kind of things can be built from Indian, like fully like Indian founders. And then secondly, you know, especially on the blockchain side, before us, there were 2-3 projects which had raised these ICO money, and then, you know, those like completely scams. So, you know, everybody was like, you know,
a good impression.
so it's super hard. We could only raise like 160K, that too from multiple like 20, 30, 50K, 20, 30, 50K.
That's wild. So we see companies raising hundreds of millions without a product sometimes, and Matic started with $160,000.
Yeah. And actually, we could have, at one point in time, we won some influencer came to India, and that was the only plugin from India into the main cryptos, this thing, and we won their competition. And we could have, at that point in time, we could have immediately raised like, you know, $15-18 million. But, you know, we decided that, you know, like later on some people told that, you know, taking the money from influencers and all that is not a long-term thing. And we wanted to build a long-term thing. And then later on we regretted that, that we should have taken that money because of that, you know, issue with the funds. It was so difficult for us. Like many times we came to a place where we had 2 months of runway, right? And first time the ETHIndia came, like, you know, we sponsored with, I think 2 or 3K. And I know how I've given those 2K for the first ETHIndia sponsorship.
I also know, and I remember kind of 6 years ago or 5 years ago when we did ETHIndia. It was I mean, we talk about this space now. There's 2,000 people here. The first ETHIndia was 280 people.
Yeah.
And that was all of the people we could find. Like, it's not even like it wasn't popular. It was all of crypto and Ethereum community in India. People came from everywhere. And I remember you and JD just giving out T-shirts at a small booth, talking about this is Matic Network and 5 other companies, and it was an incredible
for
time.
For the longest of time, I have carried all the Polygon standees and all that, and trying to put. And you guys win all the events, like, because we could only pay the smaller this thing, right? And you're like, no, you can't do it. But we are still like, I'm sneaking some standees, like people see, developers see Polygon there, right? It's like it is really hard journey. Like, you know, sometimes it makes you emotional also. But yeah, like, you know, somehow, like I was seeing $20,000 bounty, like that was the budget for like
one event,
full quarter, yeah, like.
That's wild times. I'm still stuck on $160,000. Maybe to contrast, tell me about your fundraising journey, Juan.
So yeah, the last one was pretty good, but no, the very beginning was kind of like that. When you know, we had like the YC funding, which was 120K at the time, and then there was this very long slog of fundraising with safes, and it took me something like 4 to 5 months to close 600K. And so, you know, a lot of I see a lot of startups today raising 300, 500, $1 million, and being like, oh man, it's just so hard. Like, guys, come on, this is like dramatically easier than what it used to be. And even in that period, it was way better than like Airbnb. Airbnb got started with like almost no money, and so on. And then we stretched that, I think 600, 700K, all the way to 2016. So it was like 2 years of work. And then we raised, I think, one round at $3 million. And then later in 2017, then the Falcon token sale, which then that was a very successful fundraise, and we were part of like the large ICO boom at the time. The really interesting thing about ICOs is that I think that we're an extremely powerful technique to connect a lot of the people that were going to actually benefit from the technology with the provisioning and building of that technology in the first place, which is kind of gone now. And now a lot of the tech is being just funded by VCs. And so we end up with a lot of VCs owning most of the technologies instead of a lot of the people that were initially kind of aiming to build them. And it's also kind of like a much harder when you think about like the transaction structure of an ICO or a token sale, it is because it's a much more public-oriented thing. It's much easier to find the set of people that actually care about the same technology. Now, of course, there were a bunch of scams towards the end, and that was a really huge problem. And so I think like there's probably an opening here for someone somewhere there to build a dramatically better version of that kind of fundraising structure. Figure out how to solve the scam problem. Figure out how to create an environment that makes sure that there are no terrible bad projects or bad scams. And this might be a lot about building things like think of like the Twitter community notes type alerts, or maybe kind of like MetaMask when it shows you like don't go to this website that's trying to steal your money. We could create a community-oriented way of figuring out what is or isn't a legit project, and think of like analysis for what could potentially be a successful thing, and that could end up building a dramatically better fundraising type of system. But yeah, I think like today it's kind of like we've sort of gone back away from crypto into more traditional Silicon Valley VC type models, and I think that's a big negative. I think we would be in a much better place if we had like normal crypto native fundraising structures.
Amazing.
This reminds me of a very fun story. Like, first time when Devfolio team, like Shakti and team, and God bless him, Shakti is the founder of Devfolio. When we first heard that ETHIndia is happening, so we wrote him a mail that, we also want to sponsor, and this time was the ICO mania. So he says that, I think the biggest sponsorship was like, I think 20K or something. And we said that we are the only serious company building from India on Ethereum. So, you should give us the good sponsorship, and we can only sponsor 2-3K, like 2.5K or something like that. And he's thinking that, like we Indians, like all of the Indians, it's okay to admit that we have some sort of inferiority complex. That's what British did to us. So he's thinking that I am undermining him because he's an Indian company. And he's saying that, bro, do you know that how much, like, Anurag was chatting to him. And he says, do you know that how much these hackathons cost and how much everyone else is funding? How can you even expect 2K funding on this and all that? And then Anurag then started thinking that he's undermining us as an Indian company. So both of them are thinking like, oh, you're the... And then I had to step in, like, I was like, no, wait, bro. Because there are only 2 teams in India who's working on Ethereum, and we should not fight. So let's figure out something. So we were able to figure out something, yeah.
And here we
since then, like Devfolio team, big shout out to the whole team here. Like we have a very good relationship with them.
They're incredible to work with. Maybe I guess speaking of similar kind of things, how did you find out about Ethereum, Juan?
So, funny story actually. So I used to run a group house in Palo Alto and had a lot of like pretty amazing people there. And one of a friend used to crash there, and one day he was like, "Hey, could actually bring one of my friends to crash with me," and that friend was Vitalik. And at the time he was going around pitching Bitcoin colored coins and so on. So I got to know Vitalik then. And I was already working on IPFS and kind of like the beginnings of Filecoin. I think it was like the second time, built a pretty good friendship with Vitalik. And I think it was the second time that he came to visit us that then he was like now talking about Ethereum. And yeah, that was pretty cool.
Nice. You got any other crazy stories?
Yeah, like I met him first time in 2019 ETH New York. And by that time, I think we had done Binance IEO and all that, and we were doing a lot of work for Ethereum community in India and all that. And I went straight up to him and I said, Vitalik, because he talks about plasma group and this and that. And I said, Vitalik, we are having a hard time because Ethereum community, we were still not visible. So I told him, Vitalik, and this is the first time I'm meeting him. And first thing I told him that, Vitalik, we are doing so much work for Ethereum in India and all that, and you should talk about us sometime and all that. And Vitalik thought that this guy is some scammer who's asking him to shill his coin on Twitter. And, I think, in my mind, that was the reason Vitalik never spoke about Polygon till, we got, 500 applications and Polymarket really blew up during the Trump election or something like that. Oh, no, yeah, the Trump election, I think. No, Joe Biden election, last election. Then one time he tweeted about this, that there's this Polymarket application which is on Polygon. But before that, we used to be so kind of frustrated inside that why Vitalik never speaks about that. We have the biggest number of applications. So that was a very crazy interaction with him.
That's It's one of the many stories I know that look like this.
Yes, 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 yes.
Well, you said something super interesting, Sandeep. You kind of said how tough it was back then, and you wish you had more capital to kind of help kind of get to the product. Are there any other times you want to share about where you've kind of thought about giving up or not doing this?
Giving up? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure like I ever came close to giving up. You know, pivoting things, sure, but giving up, I don't think like, you know, that has happened. God, like, you know, with God's grace has not happened till yet. It might happen in future, but you know, who knows? Crypto is a very brutal industry. And actually, like, you know, in the previous cycle, like whoever were the top projects, like, you know, they kind of keep going away. Right?
Maybe talk about, like, I mean, it affects everybody's mental health a lot, especially as founders. I'd love for both of you to kind of share, like, how has your psyche been with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, I was saying that it is super hard, but basically, like, about giving up, I think, like, the founder's breed is also a very stubborn breed, right? Like, you know, we are generally very stubborn, like, you know, once, and I think it almost kind of, like, they call it a distortion field. Like, maybe what you are saying, 90% of the people think that, you know, this is not going to happen at all, bro. Like, that same happens with me. Like, when I was starting Polygon, and that time, like, nobody knows about this and all that, and there was an accountant, and she was asking a pretty decent amount for doing the accounting and everything. It was very hard to find anybody accountant for crypto, and I said, this protocol is going to become one of the biggest protocol in the world. Like, you know, it should be really great. You will be rewarded, take the tokens and all that. And she's like, you know, in her mind, she thought that, you know, like every ICO scammer is saying the same thing, right? So it is super hard, but I think we end up creating a distortion field, which sometimes works. Like, I would not say, like, even the failed startups also have the same kind of, you know, confidence. And as somebody said that, you know...
But you need to have that sort of level thinking as a founder, and we just hear about that. It didn't go the right way, but without that, you can't really start it. You shouldn't start a company.
And those ideas also look stupid, but I think you said it or somebody else too said it, which is a also very funny thing. He said all crazy ideas look stupid when they are starting, but all stupid ideas also look stupid when they're starting.
Yes, that's right.
That's crazy.
I mean, I think I completely agree with you. I think there is a massive level of conviction that you get as a founder and that you need in order to succeed. You better be right? Like, you don't want to have a massive level of conviction on something that is, like, totally not going to work out. And yeah, this question of, like, when exactly to give up on something is really difficult. There are definitely a lot of zombie startups where they're just chipping away and plugging at it, and it's just brutal, and eventually it just kind of fizzles out. I did give up once building ETHIndia, the startup in between a game and PL. And I gave up like 2 years in, but I had already been thinking about the idea like maybe 3 or 4 years before. And so for me, that was like a super brutal moment of like just having no good way of making it work. And eventually kind of like being open to trying new things. I was pretty burnt out, so it took me like 3 to 4 months to like recover in terms of being able to like now build new things and so on in an excited way, right? Like definitely could like build random things and so on, but it was like a super brutal thing in between. So I think many founders out there kind of go through that. I think for PL, kind of by that point I had learned an enormous amount about how to build things and how to start things and so on. I think nowadays when I think about projects and think about starting things, I do a lot of like thinking through what is going to be fundamentally difficult about this, when's the right time for this, and though you might not like give up on something now, like you can kind of see when something has maybe not gotten the right adoption, and you can reason about like why hasn't that been the case, and does it make sense to continue with the same level of energy, or do you need to wait? Like sometimes you have the right idea or the right project and you have the wrong timing, like maybe something might be too early, and there like you might be better off by going to do something else and then returning, or if you're going to do it, then pursue it in kind of like a low burn sort of way where you can figure it out and develop it, but not expect like the market or the rest of the world to understand where you're coming from. I think once you start founding things and starting things, you learn to look way ahead of where everybody else is thinking, and you start coming up with tons of ideas that are new and different and kind of further out in the curve. And so you have to get really good at selecting which are the ones that are going to be successful in the short to medium term. Because even if something's going to be very successful long term, starting it now might not be the right choice.
Yeah, but I thought that you were thinking. You asked me that you wanted. Was there a time where you wanted to give up on Polygon? But in the previous, there have been like startups where I gave up, and one of the important learning, and that's why I brought it up, which I want to share with everyone, is that I think the giving up moment comes as a founder when you, for me, it is like when I start feeling that I am not all in on this thing. Like when you are actually building something and you truly believe in it, even many times consciously you don't really know like why I believe in this, but you still believe in it. Until the time you are believing in it, you are kind of all in. And it is so hard, like this entrepreneurship is so hard.
Then it becomes your responsibility to make that world happen.
Yeah. And if you are not all in, you are kind of living a dual life, and that becomes super depressing because you are still working 10, 12 hours a day, but you don't really want to work, right? And that was my learning. Like the day I realized I'm doing something and I'm not all in on this, and I'm trying to find other things like what should I do, this, that, on the side, then it's kind of game over. Then it's just like either you can have a slow death or you can have a fast death. And in my previous startup, I initially chose slow death, but then once I realized this is slow death, then I did fast death.
I do want to kind of wrap things up, but maybe one question before all of that is, given kind of the success both of your protocols have had and the scale you've kind of gone to now, how does it feel like in terms of like how has your day changed? How do you kind of operate now at this scale? You got now hundreds of employees, thousands of community members that are doing all these things in the network. How do you kind of operate? How has that changed how you kind of run the company or the protocol?
Yeah, if especially when you are building stuff, like people think, like we also used to think when we were building the product, and we thought that this is the hardest time. Once the product is out, life will be easy. Then once the product is out, you realize that was the honeymoon period. Like the real stress starts now. Because now the product is out. Like before that, you are just selling the idea to everyone, right? But now it's out there in public, and now people want, like, what is the result? Is it selling? Are people adopting it or not? So that becomes very painful. And then, especially if you are, fortunate like us, and I think that luck and timing and so many things play a big role in this. And, I have no illusion that, I did something which happened, something here. It's like so much is dependent on timing and all those things. And then when we scaled at that level, like one thing I realized, and, a lot of people, like I'm speaking here because a lot of Indian founders might be here, and we all kind of have the same cultural thing. And I think the most important thing I now have learned is that I never learned to rest. Like I had a kid recently, he's 20 months old, and people keep asking him, what will you teach him? And I'm like, apart from making him a good human being and he should have some capabilities, I would actually teach him to learn to take deliberate rest. Right? My problem has been that, when this scaled, and I am workaholic, I am always plugged in, I am never able to, deplug. In fact, I am just now, from tomorrow, I am going for a vacation, and this will be the first time in 6 years of my journey with Polygon that first time I would try to switch off. And everybody is making fun of me in the company when I post a message.
I want to see how that goes.
People are like, yeah.
Just message you randomly in the next week and see if you reply.
Yeah. You should test it out, because everybody is like, bro, we are going to message, discuss with you tomorrow on something on the message.
You got to get your team to kick you off of Slack.
Yeah, exactly. Or I need to drop my phone maybe here and, don't even take it there, and take that burner black phone, which is for emergency thing. So, it's very important. Once you reach that scale, at that scale, it's this people who are able to rest, they are able to, play a better role in doing the marathon. Because otherwise, always, I'm always anxious, always something is, and also thinking long term. Steve Jobs recently, one of his clips has also become viral, is that whenever he sees a problem, even now I have this tendency to get in and try to solve that problem. And what Steve Jobs says is that, beyond a certain time, if he sees a problem somewhere, he will not try to jump in and solve it. He will try to see which team member is doing it, try to grow him, or maybe, for him, outright fire also. But try to grow the team member or the role who is running, and solve that. Otherwise, you are always stuck. And this is like, you know, if you ask me, one of the, like, the worst thing that I would have done at Polygon is that many of the times we had problems in one field, I will go into that division, try to solve it myself. Now I'm slowly and hard way trying to, you know, learn myself, and I'm learning the hard way, that the universe is teaching me the hard way also. And like now I'm fully realizing that no, I cannot do, because I've kind of reached my limit. Because previously, somebody like some business coach kind of people told me that you need to make it efficient and your time efficient and all that. And 6 months back, I went into efficiency scheme, right? And I made my time extremely efficient, right? Now the problem is that once I made it efficient and my 60% of my bandwidth opened up, or 50%, I picked up more work. Now I have 100% super concentrated work. So it's, and I realized that, okay, like this is the limit, like I can't take it, right?
You can't continue that long term.
Yeah, yeah. So having that deliberate rest and, you know, being able to, you know, realize your limits is very important. Last time I said that, and it's super hard, but I came up with this line that once you accept your limitations, you become limitless, right? And I think, like, you know, in this part, I have still not fully internalized my limitations. Like I cannot be having efficient 14 hours a day, right? Especially at this scale and all that, where there are like multiple other like blockchain protocols with hundreds of millions of dollars of funding, biggest of the VCs, like, you know, this thing.
It's a never-ending game.
Yeah, it's a never-ending game.
I agree with a lot of what you just said. I think for me, the progression went from, you know, being a solo founder to starting everything on my own and just kind of working for many weeks and months, just plugging away at it. And the first set of people joining were open source contributors that joined the IPFS project, and so I built a community and started growing that. And then eventually later we started hiring people and then growing a team and so on. So now, you know, I work with, you know, hundreds of people across hundreds of companies, and then this broader network of tens of thousands of people across many open source projects. And so that has definitely changed how I operate dramatically. So I have to become much more careful about time waste, meaning if you go, when you're one person, you can definitely go and explore a set of things and try it out. But when you start kind of like having that as a thing that then impacts tens to hundreds of people, that can become a very significant kind of time waster sort of thing. So I've had to become much more an operator that's much more focused around how to orient lots of people, how to structure teams, how to structure goals for teams, how to like set good, ambitious goals, how to measure those goals, how to coordinate groups and make sure they synchronize information between them. One of the things that's still like baffling to me is just how little people communicate with each other. Like I just see teams that are like working on different sides of the same problem, and they're just not talking to each other, and then you end up with like problems because of that. So a ton of what your role becomes is a lot of managing communication, managing communication flows, and how to orient and organize people to go do things. And this is often like not what a lot of the people that start a thing want to do, right? Like most of what I do day to day is probably not what I enjoy the most doing. So I had to give up a lot of what I really enjoyed, which was kind of like building things and programming and so on, and sort of swapped it for organizing projects and creating groups and building things. However, like the really great thing out of that though is that you then get to work with like incredibly brilliant people, right? So I'm tremendously lucky to get to work with hundreds of brilliant, amazing people who are builders and creators themselves, and then I just get to kind of enable and support in doing what they do best. And that to me has been like the most rewarding part of the entire thing. It's just kind of seeing tremendously brilliant people building projects, building things, and just having an enormous amount of impact. And this stretches not just to the people that I work with day to day at PL, but also to you know, many of the companies that we work with and support, and the thousands of open source devs out there that work on these projects. Because one of the most amazing things of the entire industry is that it's so open source, and all of the things that we're building are really built. Yeah, are really built by like huge communities, leveraging the platforms and building these amazing things together. So one of the most rewarding things for me is just getting to see all of these amazing people. We're just on that, like one of the things that I was mentioning earlier is like this guild for open source devs. Like we think it can be super lonely to contribute to open source, but it can be a very, very good, rewarding experience. So we're kind of like building this this program to help support people going through that journey, and support their navigate different projects, learn, get access to mentors, and so on, which can be extremely, extremely rewarding and supportive to people going through a career. Some of these things you get when you're part of a company, but when you're just contributing to open source, you don't get that kind of thing. And so I hope that we are able to create an environment that can build the supportiveness of a company, but in an open source environment.
Nice. Maybe kind of to close it off, just kind of wrap all of this up. Why do you do it? You've been in this space for years. You've kind of factually helped millions of people use and get into this space and use the products that we kind of now know are shaping the future of the web. What makes you kind of wake up the next morning and still do this?
I think it's because these technologies can radically improve the world and improve humanity. Like I'm a strong believer in the fact that what we're getting to do here is we're working with technologies that are rewriting our economies and rewriting our governments and rewriting tons of aspects about our daily lives. And that is an enormously powerful way to transform the world for the better. Already today, with the infrastructure that we have, we've built an internet native economy that supports all kinds of commerce, supports all kinds of people being able to access all kinds of financial resources and infrastructure and so on. And for me, like with things like IPFS and Filecoin, it's really about bringing human rights to the internet. Meaning, today we work on this. All of our tech is built on this infrastructure that is not preserving your rights. It's very fickle. It's run by corporations. It's run by a lot of countries who could change their minds about things. Countries tend to sometimes censor things, sometimes track you, sometimes it's an environment that's not actually secure or safe. And so when I think about humanity and now, the 8 billion people-ish in the planet, interacting with each other over the internet and building a future together, you want to create an infrastructure that is able to preserve their rights and allow them to communicate with each other and have freedom of association, freedom of communication, freedom of being able to have their own digital identities and not have to be spied on and so on. So I think crypto gives us the ability to build infrastructure that is verifiable, where you don't have to trust the parties that run it, where you can use economic incentives to make sure that people keep running the infrastructure. And so I really dream of being able to have an internet infrastructure that you can just trust, and you don't have to worry it potentially becoming malicious in the future. I think most people tend to not worry about this until it's too late. Lots of countries have been perfectly fine for a long time and then suddenly get taken over by some bad administration that makes things really bad. And so it's kind of like that dream, being able to create a rights-preserving infrastructure and being able to improve the economies and governments worldwide. That for me is the mission.
Yeah. I would say two things about that. One is the this technology, the Internet 3.0, coming from the probably one of the lowest rungs of the society, especially in an emerging country like India. I think there are only 2 levels below where I come from, basically exactly slums, and then streetless, homeless people, and I truly see that the level of inefficiencies and the level of kind of the degree of the freedom that people lose because of these trustful systems. And we are building this Internet 3.0, which I Web 3.0, Internet 3.0, whatever you want to call it. I call it trustless Internet. And why trustless Internet is important is because we are spending as human beings more and more and more time in these digital worlds. And it's important that these digital worlds have more degree of freedom. For me, it's all about taking the freedom to the next level. We have certain degree, I would not say, but in some parts of the world, we have certain degree of freedom. But in digital world, like people don't realize that we are all kind of like, you know, slaves to the third party in terms of whatever apps we are using, whether it's a banking app, social, like imagine, like if you see YouTube or like, let's not say YouTube, any of these like media platforms where you are a creator and you create some content and you do something and suddenly you are banned from that platform, right? Imagine like if you take it, this is exactly similar to you are farming on some land in the US and suddenly somebody comes out, this is not your house, leave everything here, right? It's almost exactly like that because now people are building
property, yeah.
People are building, this is like their digital livelihood, and it's almost imperative that this realm, the digital realm, will need to have all of these basic principles of, you know, property rights, freedom and all that. So for me, it's about enabling the next level of freedom for the humanity, like humanity as a whole. And I think with these decentralized governances and all that, this is the actual thing, like except the violence, like the army, that is like, you know, we don't know still how that will be disrupted. I gave you a crazy story about drones and AI, but how we disrupt the, like till the time we are not able to disrupt the army part of it, like this is the only way where we can actually truly have a borderless world where everybody is like, all humanity is like one single entity instead of these countries and divided into so many things. There will be still division, but like not at least like this country's boundaries and all that. So that's what, like, I feel that this is a very big revolution, and you know, I think that humanity should go to that level. I even like posted a cheesy tweet that Web 3.0 is humanity 3.0, and you know, I obviously want to see the humanity to go to 3.0. The other context is the Indian context here. Like, you know, I as an Indian founder, like as I said that, you know, we don't have any Indian tech companies at that global level, especially the deep tech companies. There are some consumer companies which are slowly becoming global, but we really don't have like a truly global tech brand from India. And like what scares me every time is that it already took so much hard work to reach this top 10, top 15 kind of realm on something, right? And imagine if we fail from here. Anybody and all these amazing developers who are building and builders who are building from here, even if they come next time, anybody comes that far, they will still be, you know, have these shadows of doubt on them. That you remember Polygon, they also came this far, but then they doubt, they never make it. So, like, for not only for India, but for the whole subcontinent, I want Polygon to actually make it and be a sustainable global tech brand, where then people can say, oh, like, you know, from India, and you just need one example, like one big example, and you start believing that, okay, there are more companies. And this has happened for the VCs in India, like since, like, you know, that before, you know, we came out, like no VC would invest in Indian companies. And that's why, like, you know, it's super important for me personally, on a personal level also, to take it to the conclusion where it becomes a sustainable, and I don't know how many years, it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, but it reaches there, and then people can say that, yes, like, you know, the global tech brands can be built out of India. That also is important, right?
I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Sandeep, Juan, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been an amazing conversation. Well, before we kind of close this off, I do want to go back to my slides and just say a couple more things, which is just summarizing all the prizes for you. So $250,000 in prizes. You kind of heard about some of the big ones here, but 1-inch Arbitrum, Filecoin, Polygon, and Scroll are giving $20,000 each. Airstack, Alliance, Base, Cello, Chainlink, Ethereum Foundation, Mantle, Powerloom are giving $10,000 each, and so are Push, Safe, The Graph, Waku, and XDC. And lastly, we have CoinDCX, Huddle, Lighthouse, MetaMask, Mona, OKX, XMTP, and ZetaChain. They're giving away $5,000 in prizes each. You can see all those details on the website. You can see what qualifies for you to win a prize, all the instructions, the templates, any code you can use. All that is up on the website. And finally, please pace yourself. We know this is a 36-hour event. We don't want you to kind of not sleep and get some rest. We want you to have fun. This is meant to be fun and educational for you, so don't try to make this exhausting for yourself. And with that, let's get hacking. Thanks, everybody.